Hello and welcome to another episode of Altcoin Thursdays. I'm here with the Duck. This intro is highly unusual, but so is the market. As always, the show is brought to you by Woo. Links available in the description below, and some exciting announcements on that front as well. There we go. We're 2 minutes in, Don, and there's been an announcement of an announcement. So, although it pertains to the exchange and not the token, which we don't hold views on because that's a weird conflict of interest. It's so weird to care about conflict of interest when on the other side it's like you just get pre-sales and dump them on people following you, and I'm here trying to be like, oh well, conflict of interest and all this other shit. Like, who gives a shit, you know?
Yeah, everyone's just kind of raking it in, shilling some garbage on some third-tier chain, whatever.
Yeah.
And you're like, oh no, what if I mention the token?
I'm my own worst enemy. This is very well established. Nevertheless, we're doing some catch-up content because I was away for a week because I can't catch a fucking break in life, but I'm back now, and this is a nice way to fill in some content, and thank you for your patience last week. Casual Friday will still be on tomorrow, and yeah, too much content, if anything, Don. Now, this is a weird show.
Way too much.
Yeah, way too much. This is a weird show because it's one I did on my own for a bit, but every time I'd do it, I'd be like, altcoins look a bit like shit, and then they would turbo dump, and it kind of became folklore to be a Pico top signal whenever I would do Altcoin Thursdays, and at a certain point, altcoins just weren't very interesting, and so I stopped doing the show. Nothing to do with my laziness whatsoever. But here we are, and altcoins have been anything but boring. And for the sake of having some content tomorrow, we'll mostly skip past BTC and ETH, even though you think ETH is an altcoin. What's your view there, Don?
I mean, it's clearly an altcoin.
Okay, if it gets an ETF, is it still an altcoin?
I mean, yeah, it's alternative to Bitcoin.
Jesus.
I mean, it might be a better alternative. I'm not saying it's like, I don't know why people want to take the credit from Bitcoin away. Just leave it. Like, everything is an alternative, but there's better alternatives, and then whatever. At some point, maybe like 10, 15, 20 years down the line, if Bitcoin is completely and utterly like forgotten about, which I don't think is going to happen, but then you can be like, oh yeah, no, we're talking about the new thing in town now, which is going to be Doge version 5. Then I think that's fair, but otherwise, just I think it's a little bit disrespectful.
Understood. Okay, well, do you want to share your views on this alternative cryptocurrency called Ethereum, the world supercomputer?
I mean, the chart is shit.
Why is the chart shit? It's very green.
Oh yeah,
is that the problem?
Is green. No, but just look at ETH BTC. Like, no one cares about the USD pairs because I mean, anyone made money in this market if they had anything. That they just bought anything really.
Right.
But if you didn't outperform Bitcoin, what the fuck were you even doing, right?
Trying.
And fair enough. I think that's actually fair enough. To be fair, ETH hasn't been going down, which is a grand feat, apparently, because it's just only been going down for the longest time. And it kind of does look like it's trying to find a bottom. But the chart just on a surface level kind of looks like shit still. That said, I love the narrative. I think it's actually like the ETH ETF narrative just makes so much sense.
Can you define it?
I mean, yeah, it's just basically Bitcoin ETF made price go up. ETH ETF probably gonna make price go up too. Awesome. Even if it doesn't, like, which I wouldn't understand why, but even if it doesn't, people speculating on the fact that it might is gonna be enough to make price go up, in my opinion. So, like, it's a brain dead play. It's just a question of when do you execute on it. Right now, the chart still looks like shit, but yeah, I still think, like, if I wanted to get any exposure on altcoins, ETH would have to be the first pick, as in, like, this is just such a surefire way to kind of take advantage of a good market if the market stays good, right? Like, you have the narrative, you have everything really, right? Besides a good looking chart, but that hopefully comes later. So I like ETH on that front. I just would like it to actually show some strength, which it hasn't done yet. I mean, you could argue that the fact that it hasn't made new lows, even though Bitcoin went from like 40 to 60K, is strength, and I wouldn't even like disagree with that too much. But you want to see a little bit of outperformance, I think. But right now, like I said, the chart's not great yet. but I think it will be. It's just a question of, is it going to be great from 0.055 or whatever where we are right now, or is it going to be from 0.4, like 0.04? So
yeah, I agree that the narrative is a good one. It's just timing it has been really difficult because people have been trading that narrative for the last how many months? Like pretty much since the Bitcoin ETF got announced. There was some effort to take part in that trade that, well, BTC has an ETF, ETH's going to get one, BTC's going up, ETH is going to go up. I feel like that's... I mean, it's not that it's crowded, it's just that that narrative has been around, right? It's nothing new.
Yes.
And the biggest problem has been in timing it. So I don't know whether you have any insights as to when it's a good time to pull the trigger. Is it purely technical? Is it like a passage of time thing? Is it when we approach some of the March deadlines or preliminary deadlines of the ETH ETF? Chart sort of narrative and chart aside, in terms of pulling the trigger on this thing, do you have any sort of landmarks that you're looking for?
Not really, no. Like, it's really hard to time it, I think. But
agree.
the longer it goes on like this, the longer ETH price action stays shit, the more of an opportunity it is, I think. So basically, if 3 months go by and ETH is still trading at this level or lower, it's going to be a much better buy than it is now. And the longer this goes on, the better it gets. So it's kind of like, yes, you can wait, given the chart looks like shit right now, but you cannot wait forever. Like, the longer this goes on, I think the more of a pressing matter buying ETH becomes, which is a good situation to be in. Like, I think in general, if you're super bullish ETH, you can just buy and hold through any dip as long as you have the conviction to do so. Because I think it's going to be higher than where it is right now before the cycle ends.
ETH BTC and USD, presumably. But your argument is more ETH BTC focused, right?
Yes. I mean, but I'm guessing ETH USD would also go up. Because with Bitcoin, right? Like, you can argue that 60K, whatever, is resistance going to be the top. But I think Bitcoin is going to go higher too, right? And so if you're bullish on ETH BTC, like if you think ETH BTC is going to go higher, and you think Bitcoin is going to do at least a little bit more, then it doesn't really make sense to be bearish ETH USD too much. So yeah, that's kind of my view.
Understood. Yeah, it would be very strange to have ETH BTC strength during market-wide weakness, right? Because it's kind of barely been hanging on during BTC strength and during market-wide strength, actually, if you sort of look back far enough. So it'd be...
Oh, yeah, it's been shit.
It'd be an unfortunate window to outperform. Like, the ETH BTC heads are like, oh, finally, we're up against BTC. But if the whole market's taking a shit, that's not exactly what you would have wanted.
Yeah, but I don't think it's actually too unlikely, honestly. Like, I could see Bitcoin rally like further, like towards 70, 80, 90K. And I think ETH could actually start outperforming massively on ETH BTC, on the ETH BTC pair, while Bitcoin actually tops out and goes down, which would be unfortunate for ETH. Kind of happened last cycle somewhat too, where Bitcoin topped and then went down and ETH still did decently well for a little bit longer. And I think that wouldn't be too unlikely.
Listen, I know you're new to this show and Altcoin Thursday in particular, but top and go down are not part of the vernacular. Okay, so if you could either just not use those words, I think the show would be much more popular. Okay, so we've done ETH. I guess that's the show, right? It's the only altcoin we know about. So we'll see you tomorrow for Casual Friday. That's a joke. Don't click off. I've compiled a highly researched, highly curated watch list of stuff that's not highly researched or highly curated whatsoever. I sent it to Don. He didn't know any of the coins, so apart from like Solana and WIF. So here's what I've got, Don. I've got Ajax as an AI meme. I've got Beam as a gaming meme. I've got Bonk as a meme. Doge as a Dogcoin meme. Fet, AI meme. Filecoin, because files are important. I've got Injective. Nobody can tell me what it does, but it's been. I mean, it was strong for a while, and it seems to be perceived as a GameFi-ish proxy bet. It's also been consolidating for like 2 months around its all-time high, so that's interesting. Ondo Condo. That's a crypto Twitter classic. I've got Pepe. RNDR because Apple, right? Apple AI RNDR. There's some. These are the theses that you see on Twitter. You've got Shiba Inu, your favorite coin. You're in disbelief every time it goes up. Solana finally fucking woke up a little bit. Tia, With, and WorldCoin. So where do you want to start? Do you want to add any to this list? Or do you want to go into a tiny section I prepared about the altcoin lay of the land before specific charts?
No, we can start from the top. Just
Excellent.
because.
Right. I've got Ajax.
Yeah.
That is an AI coin. Now,
Great.
does anyone know what an AI coin actually is? Absolutely not, right?
No.
Your presumption should be that it's a shit coin that's just leveraging the mindshare of AI and is trying to live in this synthesis of crypto and AI and benefit as a result of two narratives, not one, right? One
Yeah,
of them is
absolute
crypto,
dog shit. But fair.
like one of them is crypto going up, and the second one is AI is like a big deal, and that's it. That's how you have a successful coin. And this thing's been mooning. I know there's a slightly longer price history spot pair if I just go USD, not USDT, but that's basically at all-time highs as well.
Yeah.
What's your view in general when it comes to altcoins that essentially look like this? You know, they had their listing, mega doomed, went back up, and, you know, just kind of trended for a while. I mean, these are big moves, but structurally, only now are we properly back above the previous highs. Is it as simple as, if the market conditions are appropriate, just buying shit in price discovery because there are no sellers left? Or is there more nuance that's required? Like unlocks and fucking token vesting schedule shit and whatever else?
No. I mean, there's always a little bit more nuance, right? Like, it's not as simple as, okay, you just ignore everything and buy. But I think this is as straightforward as it gets. You kind of have like an invalidation.
Where?
Like the previous all-time highs ish, like 0.63, whatever.
Okay.
As long as it's trading above that, that's good. If it starts losing that, you'd want to be out of the position until it regains it again. Kind of like that. But generally, like, just with the AI meme, right? Because I made a comment earlier. I think it's complete not the dog shit, really. Like,
Why?
Like it's so dumb. It's just basically people slapping on AI because they think it's gonna make price go up, and it actually does make price go up.
Yeah, so how dumb is it, Don? It's doing exactly what it's supposed to do.
Yeah, but I mean, like, from like a just kind of like fundamental basis, it's dog shit, but that doesn't really matter. So I think the AI sector is actually interesting just because there's enough morons to trade this, and you're gonna get better flows than you're gonna get elsewhere. So AI is definitely something to watch, even though it is completely and utterly moronic in my eyes. But yeah, back to the structure, kind of like you hold previous all-time highs. Why be bearish, right? Just be bullish. It's easier that way. And in this case, that'd be 0.65. Hold that, and there's no real reason to be panicking.
I think that's fairly straightforward. The difficult part is, for a lot of the times with these sort of price discovery is a misnomer, right? The market's technically always in price discovery, but whatever. In crypto, we've kind of commandeered and bastardized the term to just mean all-time highs, so I'm gonna engage in that. When dealing with price discovery, one of the common questions is, well, how the fuck how do I sell this thing, right? Like, if I want to take profit or like find a way to get out, if there are no levels that I can draw, because by definition it's in an area with no historical levels, how do you look at that? Or what general, not non-financial advice do you have for dealing with holding shit that's just, you know, making new ground, essentially?
It's basically, if anyone has, or like, I don't know if you have seen like basically the commentary I've made on Bitcoin since 44K, where I was like, it doesn't make sense to be bearish below.
I mean,
like,
I've got you
44K.
muted, so you'll have to go through it. I can't.
Yeah, fair enough. Totally understandable. No, it was basically like we closed above 44K, which was Bitcoin resistance for me. And that was one of the last resistances I had. So I was like, this makes no, like, being bearish here is just stupid. Makes no sense. Be bullish instead. And then it went up, right? And the invalidation was clear, like it closed back below 44K. And then it went up, consolidated again, pushed out of that consolidation at some point with like an adequate kind of move. Like a little bit of like, not just like a 1 or 2% move, but like a 5 to 10% move, where you can actually tell that the impulse is significant. And then you just move your invalidation there, and then you keep doing that until it gets so dumb that you just kind of like it basically wicks like 20-30%, or like generally like just 20-30% in like 5, 10, 15 minutes, and then you're like, fuck it, good enough. And there I think is a good target. or you just keep on doing what I described with moving invalidations higher and higher and higher. And the crazier it gets, the lower on the time frame you have to go.
That's true. Good point.
So basically, like you on this one, for example, on HX or whatever it's called, I looked at it on the weekly time frame, right? And then if that holds and it goes higher, there's a good chance that you're going to have to look in the daily time frame to find the next consolidation, the next area of interest. If that pushes higher again, then you have to go on the 4 hour until it's so ridiculous that you're gonna get basically invalidation, and then you have to stay out to, like, if you make so much money that you can jump all the time frames down just good enough, especially on altcoins. I think, like, I see a bunch of people trade these, they get out and then they kind of get suckered back in, and that's where you get fucked. You're not usually getting fucked when you buy these things just the first time. It's usually when you rebuy them the second or third time where you get completely wrecked, because at the end of the day, these coins will go down 99% again. It's just a question of from where, right? Like, if it's 10 times higher from where it is now, you're still going to be coping. But you should just be looking at them as like a trade. Like, if you can take a 2, 3, 4, 5x before it does a 10x, shouldn't be necessarily be tempted to jump back in just because you're like, oh no, this is actually the future of whatever the fuck, because I can assure you it's not.
And if you really like it, you can always rebuy it on a nuke, right?
Yes.
I mean, the nuke isn't guaranteed, and maybe it keeps running, but your job isn't to like catch every portion of every single move, as sort of counterintuitive as that may seem. But yeah, that's really good. So basically, you try to find the high time frame invalidation first. If that doesn't work, you work down your time frames, and you do that as long as the market keeps giving you a reason to stay in. And then at a certain point, either with like some mega blow off or volatility spike or something else, you get the fuck out of there, and then you don't rebuy it too early. I think we've
at all. I think legit, like, if you make a shitload of money on a coin, I think generally it's better for your kind of like mental health to just see it as done and then be like, okay, I'm going to trade something else instead. Just because, like, if you've closed that trade already, just because, like, if you keep trading that same exact coin, at some point you just kind of lose sight of the big picture, right? Because you've been trading that thing so long, like you're on the 5-minute chart, you're doing whatever the fuck you're doing when the market goes completely wild, right? And then at some point you just kind of lose sight of everything, and just kind of staying away after like a big win will prevent you, like, especially when it's later into the cycle. Like right now, I think it's okay if you jump in 1-2 times, but if Bitcoin's trading at like 80-90K and altcoins have been running 5 or 10x's, at that point you don't necessarily want to be the guy that just sticks with it too long. Like, the moment you kind of just shift your attention from one thing to another, you're gonna have to go through the whole, okay, this is the high time frame, this is the lower time frames, this is kind of like how it's been trading thing, and then you're a little bit more objective rather than like being completely biased and lost in the sauce because you've been trading that one coin for too long.
Yeah, tunnel vision can certainly get in the way of that type of stuff. And we've also written at length, I think, in different versions of Technical Roundup, the newsletter, kind of trading alts in a trending market and other things, like looking at BTC pairs, for example, where appropriate, and also just looking at BTC and ETH as a whole when those hit high time frame resistance. If you think there's going to be a pullback, a lot of the time it's correlated, and so you could almost always find levels on BTC and ETH, although that's becoming increasingly scarce on the BTC front. But no, I think all of that is very reasonable. So first coin done, AI meme, all-time high breakout, still pretty close to it in percentage terms.
Not
So
that bad.
Not terrible, which means now that we've talked about it, you know what comes next on.
It's
going to fucking zero. Listen, I did want to quickly mention like the altcoin landscape. You know what? I actually tried to tee you up for it. I was like, oh, Don, should I do the pre-prepared version that I had ready for this show? And you were like, nah, let's go from the top. And I was like, well, fuck me. Okay, let's go from the top, like without context, because that's like totally appropriate. You were supposed to play along, but whatever, fuck you. I'm doing it anyway, because leaving it to the end doesn't make any sense. There are two things I want to mention. The first is that, just as a quick data point. Velo, who has, this is just like a dashboard with all sorts of futures and TradFi stuff and crypto in general. I use it. I really like it. They had to update their funding APR heat map. Because all of the AP in sort of historically, it was between like minus 50 and 50%. That was the range that was available. And so darker colors would be negative funding, lighter colors would be positive funding between minus 50 and 50. And this is just like a really cool tool because at a glance, you can kind of get a sense of where funding is in altcoin perps without having to look at individual altcoins or trying to annualize the funding rate from whatever the next funding period is. It's just like a nice lay of the land type of thing. And altcoins got so fucking hot that I've got it on my screen now. Just there's just a yellow box because every single altcoin that they had in the heat map was over 50% APR. So they had to add more colors to it. So now there's an orange one for 100% plus on Velo, which is interesting, right? So if I'm looking at futures now, actually, I think it's in the market tab. Here's me showing my ignorance. It's in the market tab. There's actually a bit of a spread, right? It's not like the whole thing is orange now. Some things are definitely hotter than others. Like Sheeb is hot, Atom, AVAX, BCH, BNB. I mean BTC to some extent, Dogecoin. These are all like closer to 100% in some case, between like 70 and 80% APR. And then on the other side, hold on, let me see. Yeah, and on the other side, you've got some like neutral funding, but still like decently elevated depending on where you look exactly. So that's the first thing to mention. You can get a similar view from this dashboard. The people are long altcoins. That's not like terribly surprising, right?
No.
And high
I mean,
APR,
we're at all-time high, right?
We're at all-time, exactly. I was just going to say, like, the way a lot of people structure this trade in their head is that when BTC is this close to its all-time high, breaking the all-time high is more likely than not, right? That's premise one.
Yeah.
I'm giving them too much credit, like premise, conclusion. No one does this shit. It's just, I'm giving them the benefit of the doubt. So the underlying premise is that BTC is going to set a new all-time high, and that is good for risk, and at least in the short to medium term, good for altcoins. So you're essentially front-running the BTC breakout by buying alts when BTC is close enough to its all-time high, on the assumption that it's going to lead to a good period of weeks and months of uptrend continuation, and you're just trying to be early to the altcoins, right? So you're essentially making two assumptions. One is the all-time high breakthrough and continuation, and second is that altcoins will do well at some point in that environment, or the environment that follows the breakout, and you're just trying to position early to those because, I mean, they're fucking altcoins, they can move quickly. Do you think that's a fair summary of at least a lot of this positioning?
Yeah, I think also like some of it is basically like, I mean, Bitcoin's at 60K now. I could have bought it at 15K, but Dogecoin, for example, yesterday or the day before, was still in USD terms very close actually to the lows, right? So basically, like Dogecoin was up like 30% from the lows just a couple of days ago. Bitcoin is up from the lows 300%. So that's 10 times as much. So you're kind of like, I mean, why am I buying Bitcoin here if I can buy something that didn't even go up? And with the same reasoning that you said, basically like speculating that everything is going to go up if Bitcoin goes past its all-time high. And then they're like, oh, I get a discount on Dogecoin. Like people haven't caught up to it. And I don't think that's actually the dumbest reasoning. Like it is obviously dumb, right? But it's not, I think it's actually going to like kind of work as long as the market stays good, just because enough people will think that way. And the new horde that will come in if Bitcoin breaks like 60K significantly doesn't know any better anyway. Sure. Like they're going to buy whatever the fuck you're going to tell. Like they're going to buy whatever the fuck anyone tells them to, because they're just like, they're like, oh fuck, I missed it again. Like I made fun of it. And then they're just like, okay, what do I buy? And then they just turn to the first person, no matter how qualified they are.
The shittiest YouTuber.
yeah. And then they're just going to go with whatever the fuck they tell them to.
Sure.
So I think basically a combination of all these kind of reasons is why these altcoins have been kind of getting hot. I think it's a little bit of a risky spot all in all, because there's two scenarios where I think the altcoins could actually like take a little bit of a beating.
Oh, here we go. We managed to cover one fucking altcoin, and here comes the bear case. Right? Please continue.
So one, Bitcoin just keeps going up like completely mad. I mean, it's an all-time high. Sometimes when you get all-time high breaks, things just teleport, right? Like if you compare, like if you go on Bitcoin, just compare like from 20K towards like 60, like what the fuck was that price action, right? And there's a chance that a lot of the altcoins cannot keep up with that. It's not necessarily guaranteed because people will speculate in altcoins, and if enough people do it, the altcoins can keep pace. But it could happen, right? That you just outpace the altcoins giga hard on Bitcoin, and then people are basically losing on a relative front. And this is pretty much what we've been seeing this entire, like in the last 12 months ish, where Bitcoin's just been too strong for altcoins to keep up with. Same with like ETH hasn't been holding up. Like pretty much nothing has been holding up. There's a few outliers, obviously, but nothing too significant. So that's one risk. And the second risk is we are kind of at the last resistance possible on Bitcoin on the chart. So you're kind of like, if Bitcoin dumps here and you have a bunch of people piling into altcoins with leverage, which we have, right? I mean, what the fuck happens to the market? And I think that's like, if Bitcoin dumps and takes the altcoins with it, I think that is the spot where you actually just really want to be buying altcoins. Like if you get like a wipeout of all of this leverage, I think they're going to bounce back pretty much immediately.
Do you
So
think the
that
one
be
we've had recently is insufficient to qualify for that argument?
Oh yeah, I mean it was a good one, and this is pretty much like
It's not
we
even
had
visible. I'm looking at the daily
yeah,
chart now. You can't even see
Bitcoin.
that shit.
Like on Bitcoin, you cannot really. But like generally, like this is what we saw intraday, right? Where we had like
Yes.
this big wick, and you saw what it did to the altcoins, right? Like you had a bunch of altcoins kind of like put in the lows at that
Including
point,
ETH.
including ETH, everything basically,
Yes.
and everything wiped out with Bitcoin, and that was a great buying opportunity. If we get the same thing on higher time frames, right? As in, if we get a little bit of a washout on Bitcoin towards like whatever 50K, that would be dead dip. Like Bitcoin would just that would be what is that, like 20%, 15-20% from here. That's nothing, right? Like 10-15% pullback on Bitcoin, that wouldn't be anything, even especially because it can just wick down there and go back up immediately. But I think that could lead to basically the last big opportunities to be buying altcoins. I just don't know if we're gonna be so lucky, basically. And I mean, if that happens, I might actually be moved to start trading again. Like if you get a massive wipeout and you get some altcoins that go along with it, I could see myself kind of look for buying that. But I'm not sure if that's gonna happen. Like straight up, I think altcoins are gonna go up. Like even shit like Dogecoin, I think like if you just look at how the cycle has been playing out and where we are, I think like a lot of these altcoins are so depressed in relative terms that you can get like several multipliers. Like on Dogecoin, for example, I think like you can easily get 3, 4, 5x on Doge if everything goes well. I mean, I like you could even argue that there's a world in where it goes to $1 finally, fulfilling the meme, right? But the question is, do you want to buy it now, or do you want to buy it if it wipes out? And the answer to that is actually quite hard, because I think like if you have these kind of high targets where it's like a 3x, 4x, 5x, does it make sense to just sit there and be like, nah, I'm gonna wait for like a wipeout of sorts? Or does it just to make sense to just ape these? And I think a lot of the people that have been aping just kind of think that way too. They're like, whatever, if it goes down 10, 15, 20%, I'll still be good in a month or two. And I cannot fault them for it, because with the market situation as it is right now, I don't think it's necessarily the worst play to just kind of close the eyes and take it. But if you're highly leveraged, right, and
Yes.
you're too highly leveraged, and that wipeout would actually just take you out, then I mean, imagine that, right? Like you're right on your thesis that this shit is gonna go up, but you throw away everything that you have. You're like, and you're not gonna get back in a position if you get wiped, right? Like, I mean, it's very rarely is the case that, like, let's say you get wiped on a 20% nuke on Doge USD. Are you gonna be sitting there like 4, 5, 6 hours later, ready to rebuy that position even though it just got completely shit on? I don't think so. So like by being too highly levered, you kind of risk all of that, and I think that's like one of the worst positions to be in, especially right now. So that like you kind of have to lay off the leverage a little bit, and I think then most of these altcoins will be decent in the next few months. But if you get wiped, obviously not great.
I mean, that'd be a particularly horrendous outcome, right? Like you're directionally correct about weeks and months of price action, but because your position size was too large or using too much overall leverage, you get wiped out, and then you watch what you were positioned for happen without you. That's like a particularly bad idea. And in general,
Yeah.
do you remember around 20k how weird and painful the price action was? And this was mostly in BTC, but in alts as well to some extent, where the market was positioning so aggressively for a breakout that it actually took us like a solid week of come close, and then the leverage gets so high it gets flushed, and then again people lever up being like it's going to break out right now, and then they get flushed again. By the time it actually goes, if you've lost your shirt 3 or 4 times, then the amount of capital you have to play with for that breakout, or your confidence in playing that breakout, gets completely fucking squashed. So like this BTC all-time high levering up massively for it is like a really shit idea, because even those kind of awkward the bumpy ride that you get when the market grinds against all-time highs, if you're getting liquidated there, then you have no fucking chance surviving the volatility, like in general, right? So maybe it's a case of, if you have a multi-week, multi-month view on alts based on the BTC breakout, you start that either with spot or with low leverage, and then post-breakout, ideally not like on a mega teleport, but once it looks like it's actually gone, then you can choose to increase it a little bit if appropriate. You might not even need to if it moves quickly enough and far enough. But in general, I think positioning with massive leverage into the all-time high, not after the all-time high, that's pretty tricky. But it's also like a fine balancing shit, right? Like you don't want to be adding your leverage the further it goes past all-time high in general, because that becomes really fucking tricky. So you're trying to go post-breakout, but not post breakout, if that makes sense. I don't know how helpful that is, but it's one of those things, like even if you're breakout trading, like in general, you want to have your largest position as close as you can to your invalidation, but not before you get an invalidation, right? So you want that, if you're breakout trading, you're trading by definition the breakout, not before the breakout. But if you wait too long post breakout, then your invalidation is so far away, or the trade just looks so structurally different that you've kind of missed out on the best entry. So again, just like most trading things, it's a fine balancing act, but you don't want to end up in a position where you have a multi-week, multi-month view on altcoins, but because you missized it, you end up getting fucking liquidated on some wick that becomes invisible in the grand scheme of things, and then miss out on the thing you're actually planning for. That's just really not worth it.
No, and I think right now, like basically, like the wisest and kind of most sane way to go about it is, like, if you have altcoins that you like, with prices as they are right now, just not levering at all, just buying them spot. If you don't like, if you're like, oh fuck, what do I do if they go higher? Like doing that, and then levering up if you get a dip that, like for example, like one that I talked about, where you get like a general wipeout. Doesn't like I said, I don't think it takes much of a move from Bitcoin to take a lot of these altcoins to Goblin Town, at least for like a very, very short amount of time, right? Like this can be like a 5, 10, 15-minute window where they're trading like 10, 15, 20% lower than they should be, just because a bunch of people are levered to the tits, right? And then you can add leverage to those kind of trades, right? Then you can kind of like ape up, but before, it has some risk. And I think in general, like the worst thing to do is fuck something up where you have high conviction just because you're too greedy, right? Like if you're right and you just lose because you're too greedy, you're gonna be fucked. Like that's the worst position to be in. But if you're like right and you bet a little bit less than you would have normally had, I mean, whatever. Like this market goes so hard that it's not really the end of the world if you're even if you have like just half of the position that you usually would want to, right? Like if whatever happens, like whatever you think is gonna happens, like 10x's, like oh shit, like the 10x is a 5x now, like you can live with that. Like that's insane returns for any market. But for some reason in crypto, people are like, but if I can have, like, if it's gonna go up 10x, let me lever up by like 20x, and then because then I'm gonna be retired. But usually in trading, what happens instead is that the market is gonna retire you from trading if you think that way. So just like a little bit of advice on that front. And there are people that lever up to the tits and they make it, right? And that's great. And that makes for great Twitter stories and screenshots and whatever. But that is not for the majority of people, right? That's like one in, let's say in a bull market, like it's 1 in 100. In a bear market and whatever, it's much worse than that. But if everyone kind of plays that way, like the majority is just going to lose. And that'd be sad, especially given that there is a lot of free money in this market right now and has been for a little bit.
It's the classic duo episode where we claim we're going to go through charts and end up pontificating for like 30 minutes at least, if not longer. But no, I think all of that is actually very valuable, or hopefully. I'm sure the comment section will let us know one way or the other. Show starts at...
No, they're going to tell us to shut the fuck up and just buy shit, okay. Which, fair enough.
Fair enough. Just don't get liquidated before you give your actual trade idea a chance to play out. It's not worth it, you know? The next one I've got, Don, is Beam USD or Beam USDT. So
that's been trading like shit in the last few days.
In the last few days, yes. On the daily, it's still pretty all right.
But I mean, given that Bitcoin just went up.
Oh, sure. I don't like a lot of the GameFi stuff is more on chain and less sort of centralized exchange listing. There's a lot of also participation in the GameFi narrative via early stage deals, and those are getting quite hot from people who are smarter than me telling me they are in terms of just like valuations and in general desire to participate. But this is really the only, I mean, I think RS or RST is another one, but that's not on my watch list. I'm too washed up to follow GameFi narrative properly. But I mean, this is spot only as well, from what I've gathered. Do you have any views on charts like these, where essentially it's just a very technical uptrend, right? There's not much else to say. And
it's an odd one. Like, look at Beam BTC. I know it's a little bit of a meme, and there's only CoinX, I think, where this trades.
Yeah, but I mean, that's a bull flag, right?
Yeah, like that's a fucking weird chart. Like, if you just look at it, like that's been trading really fucking weirdly. I could tell that there was something weird going on by looking at the USD chart, just because it's trading in a really fucking weird way. Tron is another one that trades really fucking weirdly. And for anyone that's been looking at Tron, like there's a bunch
BTC or.
I mean, if you just look at TRX USD, you will see it immediately. Like 4-hour chart, doesn't matter which time frame. 4-hour, 10 daily.
Wasn't
daily
I shilling you Tron in one of these shows? Was it a casual Friday?
Very,
like, what
very
about TRX?
possible. I think we talked about it and we both said it looks good, but fuck if we'd ever buy TRX. And like you can see the manipulation going on in this chart.
It's called buying, clearly. Don. And why is it manipulation?
I mean, fair enough. Let's say it's buying, but I mean, look at the weekly TRX USD chart. Like that's just fucking bullshit.
It looks like a strong market, bro. I don't know what you're talking about.
Fair enough. Anyway, I mean, it's not bad. Like if you hold something that someone is manipulating to the upside, right? Allegedly, I mean, that's not that bad for you. It's just it's weird to trade in those instances, right? And I look at Beam and I'm just kind of like, that's also one of the ones where it's just looks a little bit fishy.
You're turning into capo slowly, respectfully, where your like price action is manipulated and all this stuff.
Oh, I mean, there's a lot of manipulation going on in this market, to be fair. But yeah, noted. Anyway, Beam USD, like I think you can also be just bullish on it as long as it holds like 0.03, which is not that far away anymore.
The breakout level, basically.
Yeah, basically breakout level. Like all of these will be the same, I think. Like we're gonna go through a list, and it's all the same. Like if they break the breakout levels, it's just kind of like very, very ugly. But yeah, as long as it holds that, it doesn't look that bad. And I mean, like someone seems to be holding this shit up, like just in between, like look at the December to like February price action. Like that's just fucking odd. But fair enough.
Don talking about altcoins, just like everything is manipulated. There's not one legitimate altcoin. All the price action is suspicious. But you go on.
Go on.
I was going to say, like, there's a very interesting point you raised that has broad application. And again, look, when we do these videos, not out of necessity because I'll schedule this shit, but just in general, I think it's many times more helpful if you can derive principles from them that you can then apply to your own trading and your own watch list and do whatever else, rather than us talk about like a single price level that's only relevant for a single week, right? Like if your thinking becomes better, I think we've on average done a better job than if we talk about a coin that goes up because everything's gone up and then we pat ourselves on that, on the back. It's, I don't know. I know the incentives are aligned in the opposite direction, where you just want to make calls and then you want to say that you're right, and then you want people telling you, oh, I made money because of you, and that's like the process. But I mean, I've been spamming Twitter with essays recently, but I think it's because they help clarify how to think about these things better than just, hey, everything's going up and I'm going to try to seem smart by throwing darts blindfolded. To that point, that wasn't just like a random rant for a change. To that point, I think you made a very interesting observation that if altcoins enter this season where just everything is fucking going up and the median returns are like 5-10% and you just have no idea how to filter what to look for, what's going to be better, there are a ton of metrics you can look at. Fucking CVD, open interest, spot and perps, all of this type of shit, narratives and unlocks and relative strength, etc., etc. But a really good one to help you slice through a lot of the noise, especially with a BTC dominant market, is just to look at the altcoin against BTC. If you've got like 50 fucking good looking altcoins, you're going to need a way to get that number down, because you don't want to be long 50 altcoins at the same time in most cases.
That's what you're saying.
Yeah, well, I don't. I'll say that much at least.
No, me neither.
And a good way to just cut down that number, or at least prioritize, is by looking at altcoin versus BTC and altcoin versus ETH, especially if BTC and ETH in general are going to be super strong. And this seems like a majors-led cycle. You want to make sure that on a risk-adjusted basis, you're picking strong stuff and not strong stuff that just has a nice green candle on the USD pair. So I think that's useful.
Yeah. And I think generally, like Beam, that doesn't look bad. Like just because I'm shit talking the way it's been trading doesn't mean I'm saying like it's gonna go down. It doesn't look bad as long as it holds that breakout level. I think Beam looks decent. I think there's a lot of other things that look better, but it's decent looking one. Like I'm like better than a lot of the other things too. Like I think there's a lot of things that look better, but it's also better than a lot of other things. So
there we go.
Not the worst one.
Bonk.
Oh yeah.
Your favorite? You wrote this off, Don.
I wrote bonk off, yeah, and
How much shame are you feeling?
Zero.
Zero. I mean,
but people were fucking angry at me, which is hilarious to me. But
angry for what exactly? What did you do?
No, I said, like, someone asked me, like, what do you think about like these old memes? And I was like, I mean, bonk isn't really the old, like an old meme, but it is a little bit of an older one now. And I said, like, I'm not the biggest fan. And then people added me basically immediately when this went up. It's actually almost back to all-time high, which is fucking wild. But that's I think generally like the meme sector has been just incredible just in the last few days. Like bonk is up like 100%, right? But Dogecoin, for example, is also up like. What is Dogecoin up from the lows?
A lot.
Like Dogecoin is up like 50%. Pepe is one of the ones that I actually was like, I mean, if I had to buy a meme coin, that'd be one, and that's up like still 150. So still outperforming bonk. So shut the fuck up.
Oh god, here we go.
No, I'm obviously not gonna claim any clout for that. I was just like, I like Pepe better than bonk, and then the bonk people were like, haha, look at us.
Do you ever say statements like "I like Pepe better than bonk" and then just pause and have a mini existential crisis?
We're all fucking mentally ill. But just generally, I think I like the either like something that already has name recognition or something that is actually a decent meme to begin with. Like Pepe, for example, I really don't like the people that were shilling it like last cycle or whatever. Whenever that was, it's not even last cycle, it's just last year. But I think those are washed out now, so maybe like I'm not hating on it too much anymore. The bonk people and like some of the other memes, I mean, not hating on these people, just not liking. Like I generally like when these new memes come up, right? Like it's kind of like the vibe is just like basically like trying to make price go up by all means necessary to be able to dump on people, which fair enough, but it just kind of has like a bitter taste in my mouth. And then once the cycle has kind of like had a little bit of time with these, that taste goes away just because all of these people are just basically fucked anyway. And then it's more of a traders kind of game, but the gains are obviously made in the first part, right? Like you make more if you're just early to these kind of stupid memes and then you just ride it up. So yeah, but bonk, to go back to the topic that
Tell me where to fucking buy it. Stop moral grandstanding. God damn it, Don. Give entry.
I mean, like if like the thing is, like if you really want to buy this shit, and I like this is one, for example, that I like a little bit like TRX. Like I'm, even if I like the chart,
Oh, is it
I'm not gonna buy
manipulated,
it.
Don? Is that what it is?
No. I don't think this one is particularly manipulated or whatever. I mean, not more than anything else in crypto. I just don't wanna have any part in this. But I think like if you close basically above 0. Whatever the fuck 248, let's say 248, and
Okay.
you will get the point on the USDT pair, as in basically a little bit higher than we are right now.
Sure.
You could argue that you can just pray for new highs by that thing. It's really tough though. Like if anything, I think like on a pullback level, like the only way where I could see myself actually buy this thing, and I would be disgusted doing so, would be at 1.6 ish. So if this completely nukes, I mean, and that's not even completely, it's just 30-40%.
Just.
Yeah, with how hot everything is, that isn't actually that far. Then maybe, but me personally, I'm not really too interested in that. Just based on.
Listen, Don, if we were doing this show based on personal interest, I didn't think there would be a fucking show. But basic arguments, breakout through the weekly level, or if we get that alt washout, would you say closer to 1.6-ish?
Yeah, 1.6-ish.
Okay.
Yeah, maybe like 1.4 to 1.6, like that area. That seems like a decent buying opportunity.
And you'd hope it's only a wick at that point, right? Just something like flash crashy, illiquid type of shit.
I mean, I hate to say that the buying opportunity was shit like this, but it is what it is.
Fantastic. We even got Don through bonk. So with that out of the way, Dogecoin. Yeah. You were saying moments ago, and by moments I mean like half an hour at this point, that this shit is going to $1.
I didn't say that. Like, stop.
That was a verbatim quote. I could see Dogecoin going to $1, and it's at 12 cents now. It's a pretty good fucking trade, Don. How do I get on board?
I mean, basically, I think Doge, and I fucking hate to say this too, but like this is one of the ones, right? This is just so absurd in my mind, right? But this is one of the ones where you can just be like, hey, I'm buying the spot because I think it's going to $1. And then if it nukes, like if it has a little bit of a pullback, even if it makes new lows, right? As not new lows, but like it retraces this entire week of price action, right? By some kind of miraculous event where Bitcoin just kind of decides to fuck everything over. I still think it'd be an interesting buy, just based on where we are in the cycle. Mm-hmm. So basically, whenever the fuck, yeah, it's a little bit of a shitty one. Like that, it's interesting spot even at these prices, just based on how far away the target could be.
Right.
And if it dips, I think that's one of the ones where it's a little bit brain dead. Like it's a pretty simple play.
10 cents? Is that too far if we get a wipeout flash crash type of thing?
No, I think 10 cents, like even 9.
10.9, okay. And what about the acceleration breakout level? Where's that?
I mean, if you really want to, and this is something that I just hate to do, but if you really want to and trade into strength, like if the weekly close above 0.14, 0.15-ish, I think at that point you would want to be looking for lower time frame pullbacks. But yeah, I think generally Doge is just a play where you like all these people that got like ran over in the last few years in crypto, if they see Bitcoin like at almost 100K, right? Like, what is that? Like, what is that gonna do to you? Like, if you've been kind of like missing out on all of it, right? I think like 100K is just such an insane level, and you're getting quite close, 60K, 100K, whatever, potato, where it's just like these people are gonna look for something else. They cannot buy Bitcoin back at these levels, and I think they're gonna buy stuff that they know, and I think that'd be enough for Doge already. So I think that you have a willing buyer base if Bitcoin continues to be strong, and even if it pulls back, good chance it's gonna make new highs. So I think that just be like a brain dead play. It might be underperformed by Bonk or whatever the other memes, but it's more liquid. It's more interesting as a play, just generally, I think. So yeah, I think that's like one of the ones. Like if I had to have meme exposure, it's so fucking dumb. But Doge and Pepe would be probably my two meme coins that I'd pick. And yeah, on a dip, preferably, obviously.
You gotta love what I've created here, right? We have like the hottest altcoin market we've had in a very long time. Literally, this is one of the rare instances where, by open interest, altcoins have flipped BTC.
Yeah.
And average APRs are like 60, 70, 80%. And I get Don on a show to shill you breakout trading Dogecoin to $1. Like, if that doesn't deserve a fucking like on the video and some sort of commendation for psyops and manipulation, I don't know what the fuck does. I've done the impossible here.
I mean, I generally think and hope. Like, I mean, I'm not even certain that we're gonna get a pullback on these, but I kind of hope, because that'd be nice from a trading perspective. I think the possibility of wipeout is quite high, but it doesn't have to, and that's the scary part, right? Because then how the fuck do you get exposure to any of this if it doesn't even give you a dip? Because technically, like, Dogecoin was, like I said, just up 30% from the lows just 2 weeks ago.
Mm-hmm.
So like there's going to be a lot of people kind of asking themselves like, hey, do I buy now or do I buy on a dip? And that makes the market quite strong, right? When there's enough people to be like that are ready to buy the dip, even with fundings as high as we have them. But I still feel very, very uncomfortable to talk about these fucking breakout trades and be like, oh yeah, this is a decent trade, because technically speaking, these are fucking awful trades, like all of them, like awful.
I don't know, man. But if it goes to your target, which you explicitly said is $1, then what's the difference between fucking 14 cents, 12 cents, 10 cents?
That's what I'm saying. Like, I mean, the reason why I say the trades are awful is because this is ridiculous, right? Like, if you're targeting $1, you've lost your mind. Like, this is fucking dumb. But you have to basically scale back your intelligence by a significant degree to be able to trade this kind of environment, right? And if I kind of slide my AQ meter all the way down to 40, I'm like, actually, my target is at 1, and it's trading at like 10 cents. That is a perfectly fine trade. Obviously, like, you could do this with any asset in the world, right? Where you're like, okay, my target for Bitcoin is 1 million, so I'm gonna lever up here at 60K because that's the smartest trade. It's
free money.
Like, the risk to reward is fucking insane. But obviously, you have to think about the expectancy of the trade. You have to actually think about whether that target actually makes any sense at all. And the saddest part about all of it, which, I mean, it's not a sad part for us because there's some money to be made, is that I think like these kind of dumb targets are not actually that low probability. Sure. I think it's a little bit out there, and like there's a good chance that we don't get Doge at $1, but there is actually like a double-digit percentage chance, I think, that we're gonna see Doge at $1. And then you're like, do I position myself or not? And I fucking hate talking about it because I'm gonna get people to because I'm gonna get people to buy Doge before it fucking giga dumps and never goes back.
I mean, that would be your like 3-year revenge for people front running you in 2021.
Oh, actually true.
So your karma's actually break even that way.
Fair enough. Fair
Dogecoin
enough.
Don.
So we'll go with Doge.
Great.
Because I have some karma banked up from people
Exactly.
fucking me over the last cycle.
Time to redeem it. Also, the rate we're going through these, Don, is pretty miserable.
It's too slow, yeah.
It's too slow. Fet.
Yeah.
That's up. I don't know. That's the extent of my analysis. No, but this is also one of those AI memes, right?
Yeah. AI meme, dumb but good. It's above. Is it all-time high?
Yeah,
I don't know if I have
so.
it wrong.
No, from what I could find, it is. Maybe someone will correct me, but I believe so.
Yeah,
I've just looked at like 3 or 4 charts now, so yeah.
Like if you have position, it's cool, and if you don't, like I mean, like finding an entry now is quite hard. But that's just a good looking.
Are you saying that moving your mouse to the market buy button is a difficult act, on?
I mean, yes. I mean, the problem is the breakout level, right? That we're talking about here is at $1, and it's at 145. Yes. So like. You're like, oh yeah, this is bullish if it doesn't lose $1, but then half your money's gone. Like that's a little bit useless. So you kind of have to go through the lower time frames. But even on the lower time frames, on the daily, for example, it's just up like 30-40% in the last 2 days.
Yeah, man, so the volatility is insane.
So it's kind of useless on that front too, because you can be like, yeah, if it loses 1.15, but that doesn't really make the situation that much better. Right, like because then you still lose 20-30%.
Or even the 15-minute ranges are like 5%.
yeah, like this is just like it's a good looking coin.
Yes.
It's a good looking chart. If you have a position, I mean, you can like as long as it holds $1 to 115. If you're in lower, I mean, seems still very decent. And then pretty much the thing that makes most sense to me is kind of playing the time frames as I explained earlier. Like basically, this is going so vertical now that if it pushes a little bit higher, you kind of have to like the daily starts getting useless, and you have to go on the 4-hour, and then you can argue like, hey, if it breaks, like if you go on the 4-hour and you find the red candle somehow somewhere, you can be like, yeah, if it breaks that to the downside.
How about $1.30? That's a little.
Yeah, that's kind of what I was looking at on the 4-hour time frame, where I'm like, okay, if that breaks, then it's over. No, but if that breaks, maybe you get a pullback to 1, and that's a buy.
Okay, I think that makes sense. I mean, yeah, this is. Do you agree that this is part of the difficulty of at least writing Technical Roundup, where all the arguments were, hey, this still looks good, but getting an entry on it, writing a weekly newsletter is like, well, what are we supposed to say, right? Unless you wanted to go into like the nuances of like the hourly time frame, or the 4-hour, or even the 15-minute in some cases, or like the daily open drive. There were some like 15-minute ranges that I thought were pretty tradable, but doing that in like a weekly newsletter or a weekly show is really tricky. So you're trapped in this weird place. Like, yeah, it still looks good as long as it doesn't do whatever. And it's like, okay, that's only part useful, right? Because that gives you an invalidation. It doesn't give you a fucking entry. So what? You're telling me it's strong, but you're not telling me how to get a piece of it. Like, fuck off.
Yeah, but I think it's like if you like something in these kind of market conditions, you buy it, and then as long as you have the invalidation, like if you have an invalidation somewhere close and you like something, you just fucking buy it and pray. And then if you get invalidated, you buy it like 30-40% lower again, and you pray again. And if that gets invalidated, the cycle is probably over.
Fantastic. I like that framework. Filecoin. Don, how many of your files have coins?
Yeah,
I didn't think so.
Isn't like years back, people were telling me how shit Filecoin is. I don't know if that was like I never had anything to do with it, but years and years back, people were like, "Oh, this is so shady." Like the people running it, like complete and utter goons. I don't know.
Isn't this quite an old coin?
Yeah, it is. Like Filecoin. I mean, you're talking about FIL, right?
Yes.
Yeah, it's quite old.
So which breakout level resistance are you going to shill people to buy on this one, Don?
No, I don't think it's. I don't think it's an interesting coin.
Well, it's up 12%.
It is. I mean, yeah, but look at like Filecoin BTC. I think this is one of the ones where you're like, cool, everything goes up, so Filecoin is up too. But like this is garbage. Like, and I could be eating my words, and this thing goes up 500% tomorrow. This is like the thing when everything is going crazy. There's always a possibility that happens. But there's no indication of that, right? Like with a lot of these other ones, for example, Solana, right? Before it went up, like completely crazy, there was a bunch of indication that this was like at least a decent coin to buy, right? Like it was outperforming everything. where altcoin Bitcoin pairs took a massive beating. Solana was able to hold, and then the moment altcoins were looking decent, Solana just completely ripped. With Filecoin, if you look at it, there's no indication that it's going to go up. If someone decides to put like 10 million in, it's probably still going to go up, right? And this is something that you cannot really predict just looking at charts. Anyone telling you otherwise is a moron, I think. Like, obviously, like with altcoins, and especially if they're like not top 10, it's quite easy to push these up if you just have enough money and enough kind of like motivation to do so.
Well, let me buy some and then you show me how easy it is, Don.
Yeah, but it doesn't really help you, right? Like if you're like, oh yeah, maybe someone comes in and buys a shitload of my coin. Like if that coin is generally trading weak, you rely on someone else to kind of help you out. And if your coin is trading strong, there's the better chance that someone's going to come in and actually pump it for you. And even if no one comes in, like it's trading strong for a reason, right? Like the grand like majority of people are already kind of doing what the rich person would be doing for you in another coin. So if the coin looks like shit against Bitcoin, like Filecoin does, there's a chance it goes up against Bitcoin even if everything else goes up. But unless someone bails the Filecoin holders out, I don't really see a reason why that would be a better trade than anything else.
So my attempt to bait you in with the daily returns of 12% didn't work, Don, is what you're saying.
Do they have 12% daily returns?
Well, no, it's up 12% today is what I meant.
Oh, I was like, what the fuck?
That sounds like a thing.
I was like, that sounds like a major Ponzi.
No, not quite yet. I'm sure we'll get to those. Injective, INJ.
Okay.
So this is one of the early kind of outperformers, and in general, even compared to, I mean, for most of it.
Yeah, you shilled it to me for quite a while.
I did shill it to you. Do you want to know how much money I made on this thing? No prizes for guessing. Anyway, this was kind of one of the early darling trades for the whole, look, alts are in price discovery, so just fucking buy them, right?
Holy shit, that weekly chart on the USD pair. What the fuck?
Yeah, I was going to ask you about this, right? So this is fairly clear of all-time highs, but at the same time, it went sideways for like 2.5 months since doing that.
I like it.
Do you think this is a simple case of post all-time high consolidation isn't bearish, so if then this consolidation breaks, fucking send it?
Yeah, I'm not. I like it. Like this doesn't look bad.
Okay.
I think generally, as long as you don't get it close below like the candle, like the weekly candle of the 19th of February, this just looks quite good. And the reason why I give like these kind of invalidations is because the moment the market turns, right, like these things can dump endlessly. Just look to the left, right? So there's a good chance that it does what I said, where I'm like, oh yeah, if it doesn't close below this, it looks good. And then it does close below it and actually comes back up and it's completely fine. But with altcoins, especially if you just go from the last top to the last bottom, these things go down 95, 96%, right? Easily. And then you have to have invalidations relatively close and you have to be ready to get chopped out from time to time. Like it's worth it to get chopped out 2-3 times out of an altcoin trade as long as you kind of get into, especially in conditions like this where like everything like seems kind of on the cusp of breaking out, because then you have the chance to actually get into the rally, because once the rally is going, it's really hard to get in. So like if these invalidations are hit, it doesn't mean the top has to be in. It just means like it's not as strong as it should be, and maybe it just needs another attempt. So I'm not like saying like, hey, everything's over when if like a price level like that fails. I'm just saying it's not strong enough to do what you want it to do, and it can go on the second or third attempt even.
Yeah, and it can certainly wick below those invalidation levels.
Oh yeah, totally
things
fine.
Get slippery, right? And that's acceptable, presumably.
Yeah, that's totally fine. But I think generally, like, that's not a bad one, especially given like it was one of the strongest ones and it was strong early, and then it went sideways here for a long time. So if it starts breaking that to the upside, that's not a bad looking chart.
Excellent.
To be honest, like everything on the USD pair is just everything that we're going to look on the USD pairs is going to look decent. With INJ, like if you look against Bitcoin, like it still looks good, right? Like yes, it pulled back like 30-40%, but that's still a really strong looking chart. and that's what you're looking for, right? Like early outperformers, generally strength against Bitcoin, all those kind of things.
There we go.
So,
We've got the Injective shill after 8 weeks of consolidation as well. This is great.
yeah, I mean, 10 times better than Phil, right? Like, why the fuck would you want to be buying Filecoin if you can buy this?
I don't know, bro. A lot of people have files on their computer. Maybe we should long ICP. A lot of people use the internet and have a computer and need a protocol.
Do you actually need a protocol, though?
Yes, it has a token. Obviously, you need it.
Fair enough, fair enough.
Don, you'll love this one. Ondo. Are you going to have a condo from this crypto Twitter favorite real world asset coin?
Oh, is it actually a real world asset coin?
I think so.
Like, so they're actually.
I think it's an RWA BlackRock meme type of instrument.
Oh.
From my understanding of the memes around it.
Oh, I hate this space so much.
No, don't shut up. It gave you everything, including me. Most importantly, me.
Fair enough. Fair enough.
How's that for some fucking self-serving? Anyway, this thing on the I think the daily is probably the. I mean, the weekly just isn't really worth anything. I don't know if you agree. Daily and below, because this thing just got listed, and that's post-listing is where the interesting price action is, right?
Yeah.
What do you think of this daily / 4-hour consolidation right now? Because it's technically not too dissimilar to INJ, slightly different in terms of time horizon, obviously, and how long it's been going up. But it's one of those like, hey, this thing broke all-time high, but it's going a bit sideways now. Does your analysis change?
I like it less, but you could argue that as long as it can hold 0.4, like it's still bullish. Like it kind of did the whole range reclaim thing.
Sure.
In the last like a couple hours ago. But I don't know. I don't, for some reason, like I cannot be I cannot be asked to trade this thing and analyze it. I think generally this is probably like, I don't know how big the market cap of this thing is. Probably too high, but too low to kind of use TA properly.
I don't know. Do you remember IDO season? There was no problem using TA on newly listed assets.
I don't know.
Let's move on.
I struggle with this one. I don't have anything good to say.
You don't have anything good to say.
But you send it. Now you hit me with your shot.
No, that's not how the show works, Don.
No.
I think you're confused. It's okay. Let's move on to Pepe.
Okay.
Also, you know, this is something for Casual Friday, but I was like, oh, well, I'm back now. I wonder what people thought when Don did his whole Q&A stream. And then people were like, oh, no cred equals insta-click. I was like, fuck you. I wish my personal life was worse. So I could take more time off. Jesus.
No, there's just a bunch of people that know exactly that rise you up. But I think
true. It works. Congratulations, I guess. Shit.
The shows are materially more boring without you.
I don't know. I think they're just different.
No. 100%. Like, just not even comparable.
I think they're kind of boring either way.
I mean, I'm not disputing that fact.
Pepe, do you have anything to dispute on that coin? Because you were talking about it earlier as one of the better meme exposures.
I mean, I just wish I bought it when I talked about it.
Okay, your regrets aside, what do you think of this coin?
I just think it's good. It's one of the ones where if you get a pullback, you buy it. And I don't really have a good level. But generally just like, I think that's one of the ones where it makes sense to kind of bet on strength. And I mean, yeah, if you're wrong, well, you're gonna take a massive hit. But the good thing is, right, and this is crypto, like it's a meme coin, you're like, oh yeah, but if it goes down, like that's gonna be bad. But at the end of the day, like no matter how good or shit something is, it's gonna go down 95%, right? So I mean, I can just be like, hey, this is Pepe, this doesn't mean anything, but it still seems like one of the better buys to me. So downside is the exact same as everything else, but I think the upside is higher.
Downside is zero.
Yeah.
As in the price zero, not zero downside. do you remember when you were getting lit up in, what was it, 2018? When you were saying downside is limited?
Oh, yeah, that was great. That was actually by Eric Wall.
By Eric Wall, of all people.
Oh. I love him. He's like one of the better people in crypto.
If he shows up in your mentions, you're very wrong about something.
Oh yes, yes. But I mean,
that was a miscommunication one, though, right?
Yeah, completely.
Allegedly.
Allegedly.
I'm just
maybe
trying to throw you a life raft. You know?
Maybe I was just looking because I think I did the whole joke thing where I was like, it's down 90%, so downside's limited.
Yeah, you can only go down an extra 10% or whatever that
means.
Then
and he took it literal. I think I don't remember. It's a while ago. But anyway, yeah,
simpler times.
Like 10%, 90 plus 10 is 100. That's 100% down. It cannot go lower than that.
That's what a lot of BTC maxis used to think when it came to like sats, and then they realized there's like on like Cryptopia and stuff, and then they realized there was like a Litoshi market for it. Yes. So it could go sub sat. I mean, yeah, this is in the archives basically.
Yeah.
So the way I trap you on this show is by making you shill breakout levels that end up being the top, or by making you shill support levels that never get hit. In the
I've noticed.
In the spirit of that, what is the support that's not going to get hit and the breakout level that's dangerous to break out buy into?
I mean, it literally broke out already, like at 0.19.
Yeah,
like 190, whatever. Like
if it goes back there, do you even want to buy that shit?
If it's on a wick,
if it's super quick.
Yeah, I think generally, like the thing with these is that, like, with how the market is, I actually think like these levels where I'm usually like, I don't like it if it goes back there. I actually think those are excellent now.
Okay.
Just because, I mean, yeah, if you get a wipeout, we're like almost at all-time high for Bitcoin. So you want to take, like, that's the thing, you want to take an altcoin bet, right? Like it just kind of seems silly not to take an altcoin bet when we're this close and we've had this much strength, right? If you're wrong on that and you give back a bunch of the gains, like, I mean, like Bitcoin did what, like 4x? I mean, if you give back some of those gains, you obviously don't want to risk all of it. But if you give back like 10, 20% of what you made during this like massive bull run already, that seems like a decent price to pay for the upside potential that altcoins have, like in the next few weeks to months. So I want to take these kind of trades that I usually wouldn't like to take, like once I come back, which is probably going to be soon, because I'm kind of like, if we get an Altseason, like I'm not going to sit that one out. And I think that's why, like, I actually like these levels. Like these dumb usually shouldn't be hit because that'd be weakness, whatever. But I think a bunch of people are basically so over levered that if you get these levels that shouldn't be hit, it's just because people are getting liquidated. And if they do get liquidated in those levels, I think it's decent enough to buy. And if you, like I said, there's a good chance that we're talking about these things at the all-time high Pico top, right? And everything goes down. But I think it's still a decent bet just based on the fact that altcoins are just perfectly set up to show some strength, not only against the USD, but also against Bitcoin. So yeah, 190 seems like a good kind of wipeout level to buy on Pepe. Not sure if that's going to happen or not. I like that's the thing. Like all of these levels, I wouldn't want to bet on them actually getting hit. But if it does get hit, it's interesting. Like 190 to 160, like all of that range seems decent enough.
Presumably the caveat that if it does end up there, it should be very quick on some leverage liquidation driven spike and not just kind of hang around there for long.
Yeah, if it goes back there and it just like keeps bleeding, then obviously not the best.
What about the breakout level to show? Do you have one? Is it the all-time high? Is it the highest close?
No, I mean, basically, Pepe is basically like...
On the weekly, yes.
Yeah, I think there's no breakout levels already broken out. So,
Great.
Like, if you want to buy a breakout, I mean, you're buying right now, basically. But like, technically, for me, in all aspects, this is kind of like at all-time high.
Makes sense. There we go. We trapped him in Pepe now. Next coin. I'm just going to call this like DonAlt's Altseason picks. You know what? I'm actually going to do that. Let's do that.
Yeah.
DonAlt's Altseason picks. And it's just a watch list that I created. What, should I add like fucking Litecoin and Bitcoin Cash and shit like that?
Dude, Litecoin, unironically.
Okay.
It's gonna...
Shill Litecoin. Let's do this.
No. I mean, Litecoin looks... Litecoin, Bitcoin looks so utterly shit.
This is the greenest green candle I've ever seen on the daily.
Yes. And Trader SC even has come out of his bearishness and chilled Litecoin, which might be the end times.
Is that the first time you two have ever agreed on anything out of interest?
No, I'm not actually like giving Litecoin the time of day.
Oh,
I will
geez.
actually analyze it. I don't think it's a good coin to buy in comparison to other things.
Right.
There's one narrative I have for this, and it's basically,
If it's the boomer one, I swear to God, Don.
I mean, it is.
Oh, for fuck's sake!
It's basically like the boomer of boomer coins, which
Ugh.
is not what you want to have. But I could still see it do decently well.
So in your mind, you're front running the Litecoin ETF. Is that right?
Honestly, like the Litecoin ETF is more likely than a lot of other
Oh,
ETFs, I think. But I think in general, like, there's better coins to trade.
Why do
especially with-
why do my parody versions of your views end up being your views so often?
Nah, like I said, just I'm gonna probably stay away from Litecoin. The reason why Litecoin interests me is because for some reason Litecoin always goes down, like literally always, unless I buy it. Then it goes up for like 10-20%,
Wow.
and then I sell it, and then it goes down. So like for some reason, like I have this thing where I'm like, I want to be involved in every single green candle on Litecoin just because there is so few. Like you have like one chance in one cycle to get a 10% up candle, and by God, you want to be part of that. But there's much better things to trade than Litecoin.
Fantastic. Any Don specific picks to add to the list that I've got?
I mean, I like Doge, I like Pepe, I like Uniswap.
Okay, we'll get to Uni after we finish.
I mean,
this
the
bit of
chart
the
is
alphabet.
horrendous. Just
You like the narrative?
I like the narrative. Yeah.
Well, I've got another all-time high-esque one for you, Don. It's RNDR, which in my head I say is reindeer, even though it totally isn't. I think it's render. But I mean, look at this fucking thing, mate.
Yeah, looks good. Even against Bitcoin, looks excellent.
Even against Bitcoin. So where is the flash crash pullback? Where is the FOMO the top and blame Don breakout level?
Dude, I'm gonna get so much shit, and you put me to this. And you're not even doing it yourself. You're just like you're
we
like
don't have
asking...
time. Look at how long this episode is. The people want answers, and God knows they want them from you, not from me.
Yeah, I actually don't think we can go through the list because my fiance is going to be very upset at me if
people need Altseason, Don. She sees you every second of every day. We only get you once a week.
You get me actually much more than once a week. Yeah, this one flash crash level like fucking hell, like 4.7 to 5.3.
Okay.
And breakout level, I mean, if you want to breakout trade this, you buy this right now because it's also...
I'm going to crop that bit out. Buy this right now. Okay, so it's basically broken out is your argument if you want the breakout type of the argument. And then the flash crash one, would you say 5.3, 4.7?
Yeah, roughly there.
Fantastic. Sheeb.
Yeah, it keeps going from...
You were talking shit about this, I swear, recently. Was it on Casual Friday?
Oh, I mean, yeah, I was like, cheap is like shit in comparison to the new meme coins. Nowadays, I always compare things to other things because, like, if I say like
insightful, Don, you compare things to other things. That's not the very definition of comparison, is it?
Fair enough. I mean, you're making me talk a lot. There's gonna be a lot of shit coming out too. This is just part of
Listen,
the course.
even I can't save you from that one. I'm like, oh, what you mean is...
No, but like, I think it's basically like this is shit meme. It's obviously gonna go up if you have meme coin season, and it's something that you've been seeing. Dogecoin is up a lot, even though it's quite big. Bonk is up, like Pepe is up, like Sheep is gonna be up too, right? But I think Sheep is one of the ones that's just generally kind of shit. I think in comparison, like if I can make a choice between Sheep and Doge, I will always pick Doge, and I think like it's basically the new Doge, but not interesting enough. Like if anything, I would want to pick the new meme coin, which is something like Pepe with Bonk, like all of them, I think are more interesting than Chip.
There we go. You putting the dog down, but understandable.
I mean, there's enough dogs in that list. Like I mean, Whiff has a dog, Bonk has a dog, Doge has a dog. Fucking hell, this space is fucking...
It's a shelter, mate. Yeah.
It's incredible, and I'm saying that as an animal on CT.
That's true. You're a duck. You can't complain about the amount of animals.
No, we need more ducks and less.
It's true.
Less.
I'm not an animal though. Maybe that's why I'm so shit at trading. I should just like
I mean, that's literally the biggest alpha you can have.
That's true.
Just be an animal.
I mean, you've used it as defense before, like I'm a duck on the internet, and that's it.
I mean, I am a duck on the internet.
That's-
Like anyone,
it's true.
anyone actually listening to this, taking me seriously, I mean, they just kind of have to look at my profile picture, and then they're like, he's rocking a profile picture of a hentai penguin, or like duck, whatever. Like I have a Wasi, which, as people know, is actually an invention of like a hentai artist
Correct.
from Japan.
Correct.
And this is actually not a meme; it's actually true.
No, it's true. It's completely true.
Yeah. So like,
I know we're so sarcastic on this show, even I forget which bits are serious and not. But like, yeah, the actual creator of the art for Wassies is a hentai artist.
Yeah. So I mean, you're listening to someone that's rocking that, pretending or not pretending, because I mean, I'm clearly a duck. It's not my fault if that goes wrong.
That's true. Yeah, you have to contend with the fact that you listen to a duck, and at that point, you're too ashamed to blame the animal as opposed to yourself. So Solana is actually up fucking 10% today, mate. So that's something.
It was up. It was down so much that it's actually just kind of mean reverting. Like
that's true, but you were telling me that this monthly resistance is the end of Solana, and it's going to go to $40.
I mean, look at the Sol BTC pair.
Oh, that's your exit, is it?
No, that was confluence between Sol BTC and Sol USD.
Oh yeah, Sol BTC is right, yeah.
Yeah. So both on those are on monthly resistance. I still maintain the idea or like the belief that Sol is going to be outperformed by ETH, but obviously if all the, like today it's not the case, but also like the down days, basically ETH didn't have any down days, down weeks, but Solana did. And I basically think like if altcoins go up, like Sol is obviously going to break resistance, right? Like if everything goes up, that monthly resistance, that is like important. But like if everything goes up, everything goes up. I just think on the relative basis, ETH is the more interesting trade. But I could be very wrong on that because I mean Solana has been the hottest thing in the market for quite a while, and Saka keeps shilling it. So if that's the case, maybe it keeps going higher. But I think Solana trade is a little bit oversubscribed and the ETH trade is undersubscribed, even though I would have never, ever said the same thing like 2 or 3 months ago. Like I was saying the exact opposite for like ages and ages, where I was like, ETH, everyone wants to trade ETH and it's shit. And no one wants to trade Solana. It was good. I kind of believe that the opposite is true now. Where yes, Solana can go up and can go up quite significantly, but I think the ETH trade is more interesting. Like to me anyway. And how the market is gonna go at the end of the day, I mean, no one can predict. But for me, like my focus is gonna be on ETH rather than Sol, and my focus is gonna be on Dogecoin rather than Sheep. And like, you know, you get the point.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, it sort of reiterates the earlier point, right? Like if the multi-week, multi-month alt-season predictions are correct, going up is not good enough.
Yes. I mean, you're trying to get the best one, basically. Because like the shitty one is going to go up. Like if we get an alt-season, right? And this is still a big if, that this is not guaranteed, because basically all the flows that we've had were ETF flows, right? Like the push up on this market is because of the ETF mainly. So you don't have to have an alt season, but it just kind of makes sense by just the virtue of getting so many eyes on the space and people are dumb enough to buy the dumbest shit. So I think like the alt season makes a lot of sense. And if we get one, like the shitty things are going to go up 2x, 3x, 4x, and the good things are going to go up 10x, 15, 20x. And then I mean, you're gonna be happy either way. So like if I was shit talking any like your stupid Filecoin or whatever, and you're like a holder and you love it, don't come at me if it goes up like 4x, just because I think other things are gonna go up more, and I think you're probably would be better off holding something else. But that doesn't mean I'm gonna like be bearish on everything. It's just trying to basically find the one that is going to go up the most, or like at least get reasonably close,
like above median at the very least, right?
Yes. Yeah.
Tia, have you paid any attention to this?
Who the fuck do you think you're talking to?
Okay. Next, we can do Uni actually, since you mentioned it, and then we're pretty much almost at the end.
Yeah, Tia is shit.
Tia's shit. Fine. Okay, you don't like airdrops clearly.
No.
Uni had the fee switch breakout, right?
Yep.
That was a sort of narrative and catalyst in itself, and then some tokens tried to basically mirror their announcement. via governance proposals and try to catch some of those flows via copycatting. This thing didn't fall. I mean, classic bear market pattern for this thing would be to fully retrace this within like 2 or 3 days, right?
Yeah.
Obviously, that's not the market we're in right now, and it's held up fairly well for a move like that, especially on Uni, which had just been going sideways since just about forever. Why do you like this? Where do I buy it? Target, entry, stop, leverage.
I mean, I like it just because I use it,
Okay.
Like
to wash
just...
trade your influencer allocation.
Exactly. No, I just like whenever I do something like I mean I might be complete boomer because I know other people use other things, like people have moved on from uni.
Yes.
But I just use it and it works fairly well. And I'm like, okay, if they're gonna do like the whole fee thing properly, it just seems decent. And I look at the USD chart, it's not the end of the world. It's at resistance right now at $12. Supports at 8. If it dips towards 8, I think it's interesting. The whole DeFi space, I think, could pick up if ETH does well. Like if ETH finally starts outperforming like Solana, which I think is possible. And then you have like a little bit of a narrative mix. Like ETH does well because it gets an ETF, and then everything around ETH is interesting, and then you can play with that. That's why I like it. Generally, chart wise, this is not better than a lot of other things. You look at Uni BTC, that's a decent chart. Like I think that's actually better than a lot of other things, but it's not the best one. But I just like the narrative and the kind of potential that has. So if that pulls back, I think there'd be one that I would be interested in buying too.
Good to know.
If you get like a little bit of wipeout, if not, like that's the thing. Like if you don't get these wipeouts, it's kind of tough to get into these, like into pretty much anything right now. Which
that also applies to Bitcoin to a large extent.
Oh
the
yeah,
last 6 months or whatever, right? The whole 20% pullback or whatever thing. It's like if you don't get it, you have to kind of buy it at some point. And I think we addressed this quite well in the newsletter about what do you do if you're sidelined. And one of the less popular but probably most accurate answers, at a certain point you have to bite the bullet because you're not owed anything. Like if you really have a high conviction, high time frame, multi-week view of this thing, then the precision of your entry shouldn't matter that much in the first place,
Yeah.
And that's things you shield to people at the top. like bro, your entry doesn't matter, it's fine, just buy it.
Like the thing is, like with Bitcoin, like it's at 60K, whatever. Like what's the upside at the end of the day? I think like for this cycle, like you could go to 120K.
Mm-hmm.
I think that seems at that point starts getting excessive, and I think you'd get a major pullback. But with a lot of these altcoins, like that ceiling is much higher. Now it doesn't have to go that high, and the risk is obviously also much higher. But that's the only reason why I'm like, okay, if you can just buy the things you like, because the ceiling is still quite a bit away from where it can, where they're trading right now. But also obviously like the risk, like, I mean, you basically said it best with your whole like funding analysis, where it's like there's quite a bit of risk in this market. So you're kind of in between a rock and a hard place, and I include myself in this, where I'm like, I have a little bit of shit basically lying around on different wallets, but nothing significant because, like I said, I'm kind of like away. Like I don't want to spend my time focused on this. I want to spend my time focused on...
I'm so sorry, Don.
Real life.
Sorry for keeping you.
No, but I'm saying like everyone that's not in a position right now, like not in as much of a position than they want to be. Like you're kind of stuck in between a rock and a hard place, just because you either buy here and then you risk getting literally like a 30, 40, 50% nuke on your head if you buy altcoins. But also if you don't buy, you risk on just kind of missing out
30, 40,
like
50% teleport from where you want to buy.
if not higher,
Sure.
Like, and then it's just kind of like both of these options suck, but you kind of have to make a choice. And I mean, there's no good answer.
Just pick your poison.
Yeah.
Pick your
and
poison.
you kind of have to pick whatever you're more comfortable with, right? Like if you're like, I'm really not comfortable with losing 40% of my money, then you should probably not buy, right? But if you're even more uncomfortable, missing out on the Altseason of sorts, maybe you should be buying. And that is kind of like very, like, it's based on whoever the fuck is doing the actual button clicking. Right?
Just don't
like,
get fucking liquidated.
Oh yeah, please.
That'd be by far the most embarrassing thing. It's not
Yeah,
even embarrassing. It's just like it really fucks you. Like I remember there being traders around the 20k BTC breakout who spent so much time, effort, resources trying to be very like sufficiently leveraged for the breakout, because we had that week of fuckery where the market would grind up, flush. By the time it actually came, they were actually in disbelief because you lost money longing 3-4 times at that price, and then when it actually breaks and you're not on board, whether you like it or not, at least psychologically you're going to be suspicious about that breakout. And that wasn't a breakout that looked back by any means. There's almost like this invisible psychological cost to getting fucked on breakouts if you're too early, too aggressive. By the time the real one happens, like the chances that you almost swallow your pride and respond appropriately, they're certainly reduced if you've been eating shit in the days or weeks beforehand, you know?
Yeah.
Well, Whiff. That's the last one, Don. Whiff. Oh, the dog has a hat, and the hat is at 80 cents.
Yeah, that's insane too. I mean, me, I like this is like I'm not gonna trade this, but generally, like you cannot argue against this strength. Like it's actually insane. It's kind of like Pepe, like a similar kind of move. Pepe, I think outperformed it a little bit, but not by much. Yeah, I mean, just basically it broke out above 0.5 and has never looked back. And I think if this flash crashes to 0.5, it's an interesting one. If you want to breakout trade this, I mean, same kind of thing as with almost everything else. It's kind of like already broken out.
Yeah.
So you kind of just, and the supports, that like nearer supports than the one that I mentioned is just like nowhere to be seen. So you kind of like,
you have to go to the 4 hour.
Yeah,
a couple of red candles on the 4 hour, make up a cluster and pray.
Yeah, basically that. Like either you buy these clusters, you buy now and you're just like fuck it, or you're sitting there waiting for a flash crash. And I think all of these options are kind of shit, but it's what it is. Like,
is $1 resistance? You believe in that kind of stuff? These meme coins, round number theory.
I mean, yes, but also like with these altcoins, right? Like I would say, like most of them actually haven't really done anything grand yet. Like yeah, they're up 10, 20, 30%. These meme coins are up a little bit more, but the altcoin move itself that we could get hasn't really happened yet.
So we are so early, is what you're saying.
I mean, kind of. Like that's why I'm like, it's tough because I really don't want to shill anyone into something that's up 30%.
That's fine. You spent the first half of the show doing it, Don. Feel comfortable.
But I'm also saying like 30% is nothing in the grand scheme of things, especially if you're looking at the BTC pairs that like these coins still have been outperformed by Bitcoins with multiples, right? Like Bitcoin is up like so much more from the bottom than a lot of these altcoins are. So yeah, we're kind of in this situation where they're not the worst trades to be had.
What an endorsement. Not the worst trades. Well, that's the end of it, Don. We've got DonAlt's Altseason picks.
Oh yeah, I mean I can give a rundown really quick. Like I like Dogecoin. I like Pepe for memes. I like Uni and like everything around that. I like ETH and Uni, basically, not everything around it because like the whole
Lido
DeFi thing. Nah, I mean Lido is not bad. I just like I cannot make sense of that price action, and I think a lot of other people cannot either. Like that's just been cursed. And then I mean Solana is not the worst, but I prefer ETH. And in terms of other things like the NFT side of things has been interesting again. I think the NFT sector, like if we go, that's gonna be cool. I cannot bring myself to play the AI stuff just because I find it so dumb, but that's probably the place to be. I just like it's dumber to me than Pepe or Doge, not in the sense that like it's worse trades. I just find it like the meme coins, at least they're funny, right? The AI stuff is just so dumb.
Well, the issue is it pretends to be serious, right? So that's why you can't take it seriously, because it's deeply unserious, but parades as serious as this intersection between these two sectors or whatever. But
yeah, so I'm staying away from that. generally, but I think there's probably very good things to be done there. It's just not for me. So yeah, that's pretty much it. I think the Blast ecosystem, that's gonna be interesting for people to ape. I got so many offers from Blast ecosystem plays to shill them for money. So you're gonna have some attention on the Blast ecosystem for sure, just based on the fact that there's gonna be a million paid shills around.
That was the part where you should have said, but I would never shill and then shill the tokens in return for money.
Oh yeah, that would have been good. But I don't think the Blast ecosystem pays enough yet. Just gotta wait for a little bit.
Let's wait. Our DMs are open.
But I think that's gonna be interesting for like smaller portfolios, full of rugs, but interesting. Because there's gonna be massive multipliers and rugs, which is a decent combination to make something from nothing. And I think that's pretty much it for now.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Well, thank you, Don. Thank you to your fiance for letting you go for so long as well.
I mean, I'm in deep shit, my friend.
I'm sure I'm going to hear an earful as well. Thank you to Woo for supporting the show. Some really good volume milestones recently, as well as have they posted about the whatever good stuff coming? I'll say that much. I don't know to what extent that's been made public about further improvements with the liquidity provision on the exchange. If you want to support the show, there's a show link there. If you don't want to do that, please like the video, subscribe. If you don't want to do that, I mean, thanks anyway, I guess. Your views count. But yeah, this has been a special episode of Altcoin Thursdays. God knows when we'll come back to this. If it ages really well, we'll be back immediately. Fucking counting our fake profits.
And if it doesn't age well, I'm just going to pretend you forced me to do this.
Absolutely, and yeah. We release a video of you at gunpoint. Yeah, you're like holding those hostage note cards, you know. Yeah. Okay, wonderful. Hope you all have a wonderful... Just kidding. We'll see you tomorrow for Casual Friday.
See ya. Bye-bye.